and welcome to my backyard. Right now I'm on my pool deck, so you can see my pool in the background, at least I think so. Yes, you can. And there might be some noise out here because of nature in general. You might hear some birds tweeting, but then also there is a main road behind my house, so you'll be able to hear some cars as well, and hopefully that won't interfere too much with the video. But I thought I'd film outside today since it's such a nice day. It's early in the morning and there is hopefully better lighting than the videos where I do them in my house, because I always have to rely on the natural light coming into my room and things, so I thought I'd film outside today. But recently I saw this meme. Now I came up with the idea for this video before seeing the meme, but I thought that it fit the theme perfectly. So I saw this meme, I believe on Twitter, Facebook, one of those social media sites, and I could really relate to this, and I know a lot of language learners can relate to this as well. It is super annoying when you want to practice a language, but then people speak to you in English. And I know the argument against that is, well, they want to practice speaking English too. Now, my thing is that if I'm going to another country to learn another language, I find it a little bit annoying that people speak back to me in English, especially if I know their language to a conversational level. Because if I wanted to speak English, I would just stay in the United States. And I know that not everybody has that opportunity, but still, it's really annoying and it's kind of discouraging to have someone speak back to you in English, because it kind of makes you feel like you don't know enough, or that they think you don't know enough. So anyway, this video isn't about that, but rather kind of the idea of perhaps looking at things in another light. I'm not really sure, but you'll see what I mean as I go on. So for one thing, I know I'm guilty of this too, because my native language is English, but I speak Spanish fluently, and then I speak French and Portuguese conversationally, I would say. And people have wanted to practice speaking these languages with me before. But there were days where I was tired, or I just wasn't having any of it because I wasn't in a good mood, or for some reason, you hear about this when you read articles about trying to help your kids, like raise them bilingually and things. You hear that they don't want to speak the language. They resist when you try to speak to them in that language. And I know that my mom, once we were older, my sister and I, tried speaking to us in Spanish and we would resist because she didn't teach us from the time we were little. So by the time we were older, we thought, well, why can't we just ask for this in English? We got lazy, we were irritated, we didn't like it. And so there were days where people would want to practice a language with me and start speaking it to me, and I hate to say this, but I would just respond in English sometimes because I was tired, I was not in a good mood. For some reason, at that moment, it just wasn't the right time. I'm not a native speaker of these languages, as I said before, so with native speakers it's different because maybe they don't have to think as much to speak that language or anything. I'm not really sure, and I can't tell you why they don't want to speak the language that you want to practice with them. However, when you do a language exchange, you're guaranteed, at least typically, I'm not going to say this for everybody, but typically to speak in both languages since it's an exchange. You're going into that expecting to speak both languages. There have only been a few cases, and with certain languages, where the person only wants to talk to me in English for some reason. But with other languages, it's been pretty 50-50, so that's good. But if you speak another language and somebody starts to speak to you in that language and you have the urge to reply in English, just think about it this way. First of all, be grateful that you know another language fluently and that someone chose you to practice with. They chose you. You're like a role model to them. Somebody who knows a language better than the other person and they want to get better at it, and they chose you as a mentor or someone to help them out. You're helping somebody else by doing this. It's an honor. It's a good thing. And yeah, you might be irritated, but just think of it that way. You're helping somebody else. They're looking up to you. It's actually a compliment. The other thing is, don't underestimate practice. We all need practice. So maybe if it's your native language and you're speaking it all the time, that's different because you do speak it all the time and maybe you do want something new. But If you don't get to speak it all the time and it's something you only speak at home and you're out somewhere, you're far from home and everything, you do need to practice, because people even do lose their native language to an extent. They'll forget words, they'll forget easy concepts sometimes. It's crazy. You grew up speaking this language, have spoken it your whole life, and then you start losing it little by little because you're speaking other languages all the time. So don't underestimate the power of practice for you as well as the other person. Maybe you're the only, since I'm not a native speaker of the other languages I know, I need the practice constantly. I need to maintain these languages or else I'll forget. And I am constantly trying to find ways to practice. So whenever I say no mentally and respond in English, I'm losing an opportunity to maintain my language or get better. So think about it that way as well. You might be losing something out of this just because you're irritated or because you don't feel like speaking the other language and you feel like speaking English. And then last of all, because I said you might be losing something, this may be your only opportunity to speak this language. You may not have this person to want to speak with you in a month, in a year, even in a week. They might be tired of trying to practice with you, or I don't know, stuff happens because this is life and things are constantly happening around you and in other people's lives. This may be one of the only opportunities you do get to practice with this person and have somebody who wants to speak this language with you. So in the future, you might not have as many opportunities to practice this language. So practice while you can. Now I know this doesn't exactly solve the problem of what happens when native speakers of another language speak to you in English. I'm still learning how to deal with that myself, actually, and trying to get the courage to tell people, well, can't we try 50-50, or I'd rather speak in your language, please, but that doesn't always work with people from what I've read. And so I know people will say, go look for a different person to try to practice with, someone who will be happy to practice their language with you. I'm still looking into that, but for now, these tips are for people who do not want to respond in their language and prefer to respond in English. And I've been there before, which is why I'm making this video, because I'm also telling myself, you have to look at things in a positive light instead of being tired, like too tired or whatever kind of excuse we come up with for that day or that moment. So that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!